All who exalt themselves will be humbled, usually by a spouse. Years ago now, I heard a story I really liked from our previous bishop. Bishop Skip said he heard it from the Bishop of Bath and Wells. That's in England, and that bishop has a very prestigious job. So this very important British bishop told our Bishop Skip that he once said to his wife, "Darling, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think I would end up as the Bishop of Bath and Wells?" And his wife answered, "Darling, I hate to disappoint you, but you have never been in my wildest dreams." So, of course, I had to tell my wife this story, and her reaction was, "Now there's a woman I want to meet." All who exalt themselves will be humbled, usually by a spouse. When you have a fancy title like rector or reverend or even the right reverend, and when you get to wear the fancy robes and sit up front in church, it's easy to get a little puffed up. Religious leaders often give in to this temptation and become a little full of themselves. And that seemed to tick Jesus off. He had a lot of things to say about that. Some of us wear these fancy robes and start thinking we might be Gandalf the Wizard or the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, but in fact, we're more like Bozo the Clown in drag. I remember one time when I fell into the trap. I was feeling pretty good about the old priestly memory. I can recite long scripture passages by heart, you know. I can do the Eucharist without a book on the altar because I know the Eucharistic prayer by heart. And people have told me they're impressed with the way I can remember names. So I was feeling a little smug that day, I'll admit. And then it was a bit of a come down when I could not remember where I had put my keys. I searched my bedroom, I looked in the car and in the basement. I checked that shelf where I keep the keys. I checked it several times. I went through all my clothes, all the drawers in my dresser. And then I looked through every one of those places again. I could not find them. Finally, I decided I must have left them in my church office, and the next day I'd have to find somebody to let me into church and get them. Well, the next morning, my sweet wife said, "I found your keys." I was amazed and I was relieved, and I said, "Where were they?" She said, "In the front door of the house all night long." All who exalt themselves will be humbled, usually by a spouse. What is the point of getting all puffed up? I may be a priest in a fancy robe, but you're looking at a guy who once smashed his head on the Advent wreath during a big church service. You're looking at a guy who has tripped over these altar steps many times. You're looking at a guy who once almost burned this church building down because of a clear glass paperweight on my office desk. I am just a schlub like everybody else. Schlub is a Yiddish word. According to the dictionary, it means airhead, bird brain, doofus, meathead, or, and I am not making this up, loon. Jesus said, "You are all disciples," which means students. You are to be servants, so stay humble. And the word humble comes from the Latin word humus, which means soil. To be humble is to be close to the soil, to be down to earth. The real friends of Jesus are down to earth. Ministers, priests, and bishops should view themselves as more like Bozo the Clown than the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. You see, we're all just God's kids, the lay people and the ordained, the rich and the poor, gays, straights, young and old, male, female, and in between, tall, short, able, disabled. We're all just God's kids, and we are loved just for that reason. So I think it's so important that clergy like me are allowed to be married. You see, when I get a little puffed up, there's someone pretty close by who can bring me right back down to earth. She has a special gift for it. And if she doesn't do it, a child will. When I served a church out in the Chicago area 32 years ago, I went to visit a family to talk to them about baptizing their new baby. Now, this new baby had a 5-year-old brother, and he was out in the yard just waiting for me to arrive at their house. And when I pulled into the driveway, the 5-year-old ran into the house and yelled, "Mom! Mom! The church guy is here!" I like that title. I like that title much more than the Reverend or the Very Reverend or the Right Reverend. I'm just the church guy. I'm just a child of God. Nothing special really, but then everything special. Same goes for you. So keep your feet on the ground. Stay down to earth. But remember, you are always, always, always loved, just as you are.